If you or someone you know is struggling with a herniated disc, this video is going to help you. This is going to be my 1 year update on how I'm doing after being diagnosed with 2 herniated discs. If you want to hear my full story with this, you can click the video up here. I'll leave a card. This video seemed to resonate with a lot of people. In this video, though, I was actually only at about 80%, and I was still in some of the throes of the pain. About a month before I had shared that video, and I didn't mention this in the video, but I could barely sit 2 minutes on a couch without pain. The girlfriend I had at the time, if we wanted to watch TV at night, we would have to lay down on the ground and watch the TV. We couldn't sit on the actual couch. We'd have to literally lay down, like put mats on the ground, and she'd lay with me because I just couldn't sit. I mean, obviously driving was terrible. Every time I would get out of a drive, the first thing would just be an ice pick into my hip. But I can tell you, all of this stuff has resolved. And the full credit goes to the low back ability program that I got on and really just strengthening my weak back. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well as some other advice that I want to give people to maintain their progress if that's where they're trending towards. You know, if we're talking about daily adjustments for me, really what it looks like is maintaining my mobility. I'm stretching my hip flexors mainly, my hip flexors and my hamstrings all the time when I get done with jiu-jitsu now. I'm doing all the time when I get done with a run or a big day in the mountains. And especially when I do a big day in the mountains, plus I have to do a long drive back, which seemed to be what I'm doing when I'm doing all of these 14ers is these long drives. And what I would do before is I wouldn't stretch at all. I mean, I wouldn't stretch after the 10-hour day on the mountain, and I wouldn't stretch on the 6-hour drive back home. And I realize now how bad that was. And I was thinking about this last night, and I was just thinking about how much of a debt that I was in, a mobility debt, a back debt that I was in. And I think people, when we talk about age, we talk about, you always hear people saying, well, I can't get away with X, Y, and Z anymore because I'm getting older. And they'll say that they have to do a lot more stretching. I don't know if that's, I guess what I would postulate with that is I don't know if that's so much about you being older as you just, because you got older, you accumulated more of this debt because you weren't doing what you should have been doing. In my case, it would have been strengthening my back and stretching and mobility. So the older I got, obviously the more of that accumulated, the more of that debt. And I don't think that it was just because, oh, I'm in my 30s now. Essentially what I'm saying is if I had been strengthening my back and doing my mobility, I wouldn't have been in that debt, no matter what age I would have been at. But because I got older, it accumulated more and more of that debt. So how I think about that now is, yeah, because of that debt that I got into, I have to now be cognizant of stretching after jiu-jitsu, be diligent stretching after car rides. And these don't have to be long, exorbitant stretches. It could be, for example, what I do is I try to implement it as much as I can into my own life when I brush my teeth in the morning. Like I'm brushing my teeth, so I'm just standing there anywhere. So I'm always, okay, well, why don't I just do some hip flexor stretches as I'm standing here? Might as well. So I'll do that all the time in the morning, and I'll do like 10 reps, and then I'll hold for 10 seconds on one side, then I'll do the other side. It's just like these little things to do. They just have such a huge effect. And where I actually gleaned this from was I am a corrective movement specialist with my buddy's company called the Suitcase of Courage. You should look it up if you are working in any type of blue collar type of setting. We go into different workplaces and we evaluate job tasks, but another thing that we do is we get them on an exercise program, a real quick one, 7 minutes before their shift that they do every morning. And we put them through stretches and mobility routines. And anecdotally, I have had a ton of people come up to me and say, oh, like I don't feel this knee pain anymore. And I've had this since football for 25 years. That's where it started really turning in my head that you don't need to spend a lot of time on this in terms of stretching and mobility, but you just need to be consistent. And these folks are doing this 5 days a week for 7 minutes. but they're not missing it. You know, they're doing it at the start of every shift, and that really inspired me to make that switch in my own life. So I would say that's the biggest daily adjustment for me. When it comes into my weightlifting routine, back in that first video, I was doing the low back ability program 5 days, 6 days a week. And so what that would look like is I think it was 3 days of like, you know, the back strengthening exercises that he had, along with 2 days of the mobility. I've now since walked all of that back, and I progressively did that. Okay. I didn't do it all at once. I was feeling better and better. And so I would walk some of that back, and then I would put in some of my stuff from my old routine. So whether that would look like, okay, I'm going to do LBA 4 days a week, and then I'm going to get a run in the other day. Or then it went to 3 days a week, and then I'm going to do a weightlifting session, and then I'm going to do the. So I progressively walked it back over months. And where I'm at now, a year later, is I still do Brendan's LBA lower back routine, the full thing, once a week. And then I do his mobility routine once a week as well. So I'm basically doing this stuff twice a week. Now, what I've done, obviously, is I have progressively increased the weight. Like when I first started LBA, I was just doing back extension holds, two legs in there, and I could only do it for, you know, I would hold for 2 minutes. And then it got to where I remember texting my ex saying like, oh, I got to 10 reps on the back extension, just going down with no weight. But now I'm to the point where I am doing 30 pounds on my back extensions, and I'm doing 30 reps with that, 30 full reps with that, from not even being able to do any weight with 10 reps, right? Like barely 10 reps. I could barely even bend over. I mean, I couldn't even put on my socks back when I was in the throes of this. So to that, so I'll do the 30 reps with that, and then I'll rest for about 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, and then I'll get about 25 reps with the same amount of weight. And what I'm trying to do is get up to 30 reps with that weight. And then once I do, I'm going to get with the second set. Once I do, I'm going to go up to 40 pounds. So that's been working great for me. I've been doing the QL routines as well, where you're on the back extension, but you're coming here and you're going real deep into your QL. You're not doing just oblique dips. Like you're on the QL. When I first started that with body weight at about 10 reps a year ago, my side was like blown out with how sore it was. Like the QL and my obliques, like I realized I had no idea what I was doing when I was trying to train my obliques back then. So I was so sore just with body weight. Now I'm doing 12 reps with 30 pounds in my hand, going up and down, up and down. Now, the one thing I will say with this is that I have experienced some flare-ups, and they're occasional and they only last about a day, but they come when I'm doing maybe a little bit too much back work, or if I'm increasing the weight too much. So that is one piece of advice is don't increase the weight too much. And Brendan even says that QL exercise will be one of the biggest ways that people flare up in his program. So you got to be real careful with that. Simply what I do, and that's why with the second set on those back extensions, when I'm using the 30 pounds, every week that I'm doing this, I'm adding another, just 1 rep. And I keep track of it in my notes. I just add 1 more rep, 1 more rep, 1 more rep, and that's it. I'm not adding 5 more reps on that second set. But so it's just a progressive overload. Now, the rest of my workouts look the exact same. I'm back to jiu-jitsu 2-3 times a week sometimes. I'm back to, and remember, I couldn't even, when this happened in November, when I had to stop jiu-jitsu, I was teaching a class. I couldn't even leg weave on the bottom of somebody to get in their guard. Like it was so bad. So being back in jiu-jitsu has been fantastic. I'm weightlifting regularly now. I'm still running and I'm still doing mountain stuff. The one thing I have switched up a little bit is if my workout routine, let's say it's calling for deadlifts, what I'll do actually instead of deadlifts, which I could probably still totally do deadlifts, but what I'm doing instead is I will mix it up and I'll actually do those good mornings that you'll see Brendan do on the kind of an elevated stand. So if they're calling for 3 sets of 10 reps of deadlifts, I'll do the same thing, or I'll do that same rep scheme, but I'll just hold that bar. And instead of doing a deadlift from the ground, I'll literally I'll just do my weighted good mornings, elevated. And I definitely still feel it in my hamstrings and in my glutes, but I'm also getting that extra back work. There's a lot of points where I'll supplement different exercises like that just to strengthen my back even more on non-LBA routine days. Okay, a couple tools that have helped me. I wouldn't say that there's an awful lot of these. I mentioned in the video before that what really helped me was that infrared pad. And that did. That helped me quite a bit. I haven't been using that now since I'm out of pain. So that's just sitting in my closet. But I think for acute pain, that is a really good fix. I can leave a link below. I've still cold plunging now that it's getting colder out again. But I think what really also helps is something like a standing desk, like I'm on right now. I will try to not accumulate a lot of time sitting, obviously, because used to be a huge trigger for me. The other thing is, if you are sitting, is to have a pad underneath your butt. So I had a PT friend, and he actually he didn't even have back pain, but he fundamentally understood this just being a PT. And one of the things he would tell me is you need some, especially when you're driving, right? And I see this in my chair now. When you're driving, your hips, if you don't have anything underneath your hips, your hip flexors are going to be shortened, because if you think about it, your knees are like above your hips, okay? Which is shortening your hip flexors. So if you have something underneath your butt, though, it lowers your knees, which then increases the angle of your hip flexors. So it's not as shortening them as much. So I'll leave what I'm using for my pad when I'm driving in the link below, but you can also use a pillow to sit on if you don't want to use that. Yeah, but that really works for me in these longer drive situations that we just can't get out of sometimes. Now, if I could go back, all the way back to a year ago when this first started happening, what would I do? Okay, well, here's some things that I would do. I would understand, and I got this from Brennan and LBA, I would understand that there's no passive fix for this. You might get some passive relief from a chiropractor or a NUCA chiropractor like I was doing, but it's not going to solve the actual problem. You're solving the symptoms, but you're not solving the problem, the root cause. And the root cause of this for me was I was extremely tight in my hip flexors and I was extremely weak in my back. Once I started fixing those roots, all the symptoms went away. And that's really the simple formula for getting out of this back pain, at least for myself. I would also tell myself, stop getting bogged down with these things on the internet that's one quick fix to back pain. And they show you one exercise and you do it for a day or 2 days or 3 days and they tell you, and nothing gets better. So you get dejected and then you go through a loop. And so then you're finding more and more of these exercises and they still don't work. I went down this road for months and it was debilitating. It was depressing. You felt dejected. You felt hopeless because none of these quick fixes that they said. A lot of people have commented on the previous video and they're like, well, will LBA work for me? I mean, this video isn't meant to be a plug for LBA necessarily, low back ability in Brendan's program, but I mean, it truly did save my life. Like, I called the hospital, the Rocky Mountain Hospital in Fort Collins, asking about like surgeons. And the only reason I didn't get surgery was because my insurance company saw that I called them when I was trying to re-up something or whatever, and they denied all this denial stuff, whatever. They wouldn't give me a better policy. So then I was like, I got to keep this in my own hands. But I mean, thankfully that happened. But that's when I jumped on LBA, and it's like these people in the comments, they asked me, is low back ability, the program, going to work for me? And I'm like, dude, it's not like they're asking you to pay $2,000 to try this program, or even $200 or even $20. You can pay $2 to get onto this program and try it yourself. Like, if you're asking me if $2 a month is going to be worth it, you are not in enough pain. because I was desperate AF. Like, I was desperate AF to get into this. And, after watching Brendan's videos, I'm like, I would be stupid not to try this, especially at the price point. And what I started doing was paying, I think it was $10 a month. I was paying $10 a month because at first you don't know if it's going to work or whatever, right? And then once it started working, I was like, holy cow, like it was working within a week, 2 weeks actually. And I actually DM'd Brendan and I Venmo'd him even more money on top of that $10 a month because I was like, dude, like this saved my life. So if you have to ask me the question, if it's going to work for you and if you should try, you're not in enough pain and you're not desperate enough is in my opinion. And I know that sounds maybe rude to hear, but like when you are so desperate and you've exhausted all options, why not try this? Like, don't ask me. Like, there's no need to delay that anymore. Looking ahead right now, like my goal is to continue strengthening my back, essentially strengthening my back and strengthening my QLs and getting out of that mobility debt that I had. And I think everything that I'm doing will eventually, it eventually accumulates to where it's a net positive, and that's where I'm at now. And so I'm just going to continue to do what I'm doing. I'm doing mountain stuff, doing weightlifting, running, sprinting, all that I honestly did not think that I was going to be able. I knew that you have to maintain some sort of mentality, right? And I guess going back to the lessons learned, one of the things that I wrote in my journal was like, I'm going to tell this as a story one day that I overcame. Because all the heroes in your favorite stories, they always have to overcome some sort of obstacle, some sort of something that's got them down. And I knew this was going to be something for me that I could then help and relay to people in the future. And that's kind of the mindset that I took. Because you can't be a hero without experiencing something bad happening to you or an obstacle that you overcome. That's why people will look up to you. And so I knew that was the mindset I had to have. But I won't lie. Like, I had thoughts that I was like, man, I might not ever be the same again. But I would always quickly replace those with, this will be my story. This will be my story. This will be my story to tell. I'll figure it out. Like, I knew I could figure it out. I wasn't finding the correct puzzle pieces. But yeah, now that I'm out of it, it feels great. It feels amazing. Like I said, I'm back to all the things that I love to do, albeit with no limitations besides the fact that I just am being cognizant of the fact that I need to stretch afterwards and I need to strengthen my back during. Those are two things that I never miss. Like, I will, if I'm on the road, if I'm traveling or something, like, you bet that I'm doing this. Or if I know that I have to travel later in the week and I won't have access to a gym, I'm doing these routines. And in the stretching routine, really, you don't even need a gym for that. But for the other one, it's great to have that back extension machine and weight to put on the back. But yeah, those are the things that I prioritize now. I'm not prioritizing, when it comes down to it, anything else. It's those two things need to happen before I do anything else during the week. If I'm traveling, obviously, if I'm staying home that week, I will get it done when it's convenient for me. But I'm still prioritizing that every single week. Just because I'm out of pain doesn't mean that I can stop doing it. And I think that might be one way that people might get into trouble is something starts working for a bit. This is a typical fitness routine thing where you lose 15 pounds or something, and then you stop doing what got you to there, and now you gain everything back. It's like, once you lose that 15 pounds, well, maybe you don't have to do everything as intense. You can pull some of the things back, like I was doing, pulling some of the routines back to see where I was at and to see how my body would react to that. But you can't totally cut that out. There still needs to be some remnants of what got you to that place. And so that's what I'm doing. And I plan on continuing to do that the rest of my life. It's a small price to pay for what I had been experiencing with the pain, and I'm sure you guys had too. So please, guys, if this helped you, subscribe to the channel. That would really mean a lot to me if anything that I'm saying resonates with you. And man, just leave a comment below how you guys are doing. If you have any questions about any of the stuff that I went through, let me know. Please don't leave a comment asking if LBA will work for you. Just refer to what I said before, okay? But any other comments, any other questions, please leave them down there and I will be sure to answer them for you. And get well soon. You guys can beat this. See you for the next one.